Hi friends, Mindy here with a process video for day 16 of the 25 Gifts of Love from Bythewell4God. I'm just turning here to the day in my devotional, setting it over to the side. I like to have it open for reference when I'm working. And I'm getting out the papers that I'm going to be using. These numbers are from the digital set that you can purchase with the kit. And I've just cut out the number 16. I'm just corner rounding it with them. We are Memory Keeper's corner rounder. It just gives it a little bit more of a polished look, I think, sometimes. I'm trying to get an idea for how I'm going to put this down. And then I have this pattern paper also from one of the digital sets that you can purchase. And I'm just going to adhere that to the front of my card. And then cut around the excess. This was a struggle for me today. I'm not really sure why, but I was definitely on the struggle bus with this day. I just couldn't make up my mind about how I wanted anything to go, and you'll see as the video goes on. But here I'm getting out the alpha stickers, which you can also purchase separately from the kit. I'm trying to decide what I want to use for my title. And I went with this pink color here that kind of plays off the pink and yellow that's in the 16. And I'm trying to figure out if I can fit the title on this tag right here, kind of just judging it based on the letters from the sticker and trying to place things. My goal is to try to keep as much of the background paper visible while still using the tag for the title. But I don't think that on this tag I can get the whole entire word. So I try a couple different times trying to figure out the spacing, and I can't make it work. It's just too short. So what I decided to do was get a bigger tag and trim it down so that the width is the same, but I have extra length. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just holding up that bigger tag and trimming around the smaller one, but going all the way to the edge. And that just gives me the length I need for the word. For the day is the title is conformed, and it just wasn't going to fit on that smaller tag. So this way, this just gives me the length that I need to get all the letters on there. And in the end, that part won't really matter, but I'll get to that in a minute. So here I am taking the letter stickers. These are like on a clear sticker paper, and spelling out the title conformed here on this tag, and it just barely fit. And then I'm looking at the tag and I think it needs a little something extra, so I went to the washi strips from the kit, and I thought I would take those washi strips and cut it in half so I could put one half on each, on the top and on the bottom, just to give the tag a little interest. And I didn't like how that looked, so I ended up pulling that up and then saving that little piece. So I'll probably use it somewhere else on another day, but that just didn't work. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. It's just not looking the way that I want, so I ended up trimming the whole thing down. I could have just spelled out the word on cardstock, but it's just one of those days where you try a bunch of things and you just keep pressing through. So I'm just trimming this down, trimming off all the edges, and then I stick it down, and I decide I'm going to put that 16 kind of nestled in between those two clusters of trees because I'm trying to keep them from getting covered up. And this is a fabric clip that comes in the kit. This is actually one I just had in my stash, and I decided I'm going to make this conformed tag into like a banner. So I cut some fabric, and then it was too wide, so then I decided to cut the piece of fabric in half, which is what I'm doing here. And I just keep messing with it, and then I decided I stapled it and I adhered it on the back. And I'm just trying to give that little piece just some extra interest. It just seemed really, really plain to me for some reason. I was trying to keep white space, and then I got white space and I didn't like it. So I don't know. I added a little adhesive to try to get the pieces to stay where I wanted them, to kind of look like they were waving, but they didn't really want to stick like that. So in the end, I just stuck them flat, and then the end that will all come up in a minute. But I'm still not sure where everything is going to live, and I feel like it needs something else. So I decided I'm going to cut out one of these stamps from this pattern paper and see how that works on the page. In the end, the background is blue, and the stamp is blue, so it doesn't really have the contrast that I was looking for. And I try to make it work. I'm trying to cover up the scripture that's referenced on there, and I picked that particular one because of the trees, but it just wasn't working. So I decided I'm just gonna stop what I'm doing, give that a minute to ruminate, and I'm going to flip to the back side. So whenever I get stuck, I just move to another part and keep working. And so back here, I'm trying to decide if I want the washi tape on the top or on the bottom, because this pattern paper is just not quite wide enough to cover the entire back. So I went ahead and adhered that down, and then run the washi tape across there and cut off the excess of the pattern paper here from the back side. It's just easier to cut from the back, just to make sure you're lining it up. And then as I'm looking at it, I noticed that across the bottom, there was this one area where my pattern paper got crooked. And so I end up deciding to add some washi tape down along the bottom, just to kind of cover up that area down there, which is what I'm doing here. And a second ago, I just did the glue on the inside to make the pocket for the top. So here I'm just using a metal ruler, some scissors to cut that washi tape. And then I had this sticker that was from the washi strips. I thought maybe I'd use that on the back, and I was going through the ephemera and just trying to figure out what I want to use. And I decided to use this house, and this is from the digital set that you get, this set of houses. So I'm just cutting that out, and I have these printed on clear sticker paper, and since the background is really busy, I need to put that on some white cardstock, which is what I'm doing here. And then I just cut it out, and then again, I don't know, just having some issues today. I got a bubble in that sticker, but I was able to just kind of use my bone folder and my fingers, and I managed to get it flat, which was a miracle. But anyway, now I'm trying to decide where I want these houses to live on the back here, and I have one of the two scriptures. This one is in Romans 8:28, and it says that, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. And the irony was not lost on me as I was struggling with this card, that eventually all things work together for good, right? So I just kept persevering, and I decided to back that scripture on some other pattern paper to kind of coordinate and to make it pop off. And then I put that up on pop dots or foam adhesive, just to make it stand up from the background some. And so I adhered my little houses, and I went back and forth. Again, I was just having such a hard time deciding how I wanted to do everything on this card. But in the end, this won out because I felt like it covered up the least amount of the houses this way. And then I just popped them up over, and now I'm back to the front, and I decided I don't like that title card there, and so I'm pulling it all apart, and I decided to go ahead and back it with the same pattern paper that I used on the scripture on the back, just to tie the whole card together as a whole. So I'm just going to trim that out here. And then I put it down, and there's a little bit of glue still, but it's good. You can just roll it up off of there with the ATG gun. It's easy to get off sometimes. So then I adhere this part down again, now that it's got it, and that helped it, give it some interest and pop up off of the back there. But I'm still feeling like that 16 is just, it just needs something else, and I just can't quite figure out what that is. So I've gone to the digital papers again, cut out the little stamp. And what I'm doing here is I have a really, really tiny hole punch, and I'm just punching holes along the end, and then I'm going around with my scissors and trimming like halfway in between the hole, and that just makes this actually look like a postage stamp a little bit more than trying to just fussy cut all those little sections. And then I couldn't figure out where I wanted to put that, so I ended up tucking it back behind the title, so I had to pull up the title again, and then I tucked it up underneath there on the side, and I'm finally content with that bottom section anyway. But I'm still struggling with the number 16, and so I went back to the printables, and I'm printing out this tab, and I'm going to try to figure out how I want this, and I'm fiddle with this for a few minutes too, trying to figure it out, how I want it, where I want it. In the end, I decided to just kind of staple it to the left side here, and use my tiny attacher, my Tim Holtz tiny attacher. And then I just trim off the back side that was kind of tucked behind, and I'll use that probably on another page. Just a trick for conserving your supplies. And then I just glued that down. And then I think I'm feeling a little bit better about that, but I have this other scripture that I wanted to include, which was also referenced, which is Romans 8:29, which is the rest of that. And it says, "For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that we might be the firstborn of many brethren." And so I decide that I want to use that. I'm putting that on a tag, and I used some sticker paper that I had actually printed pattern paper on sticker paper by accident, and so I was using a scrap of that to cover this tag. And then I used some baby powder on the hole to cover up the stickiness, so that when I hole punched the hole, I was able to it wouldn't stick inside my hole punch. And now here I'm just using some Distress Oxide and going around real lightly around this scripture. And then I decided if I was going to do it on one, I needed it on the other one, which this foam blender is domed, and so it made it a little bit easier than the flat ones. This is from scrapbook.com. And then I decided here I'm just going to adhere the scripture down to this tag, and this is going to go inside the pocket of my card. Excuse me. And so I decided I'm going to use some jute, and then I changed my mind, and I adhere some of that fabric that I had from earlier. I was just determined to use it, I guess, and so I stapled it down, and then I tried to stick it in my pocket and realized that it was way too tall, way taller than I wanted it to be. So now I have to decide how to deal with that. So I pull up the scripture. This whole day was just me doing things and then undoing and redoing them, but anyway, I peeled up the scripture, took off the fabric, and then I moved the scripture down to the shaped part of the tag and glued it back down. And then I'm just going to trim off that excess at the end. And it should still fit in my pocket there. Yeah. So then I still decided I wanted to use the fabric so you'd have a way to pull the tag out easier. So I just stapled that on the back. And now I finally have my tag the way that I want it. And then I did some journaling on the back. And then my tag is finally finished. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. Give me a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks again, and here's some close-up pictures.